Mark, welcome to the show.
Man, Justin, I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited for this conversation. I'm excited to share you, your personality, your journey, and your wisdom with my audience. We connected back in November of last year. We both spoke at the same event with
Yes,
Schenck in Orlando, and what a chaotic and crazy event it was. But we pulled through and we
very.
made it to the end, man. And the one thing that I love most about going to events, whether it's just attending or speaking, is the connections that you can
Yeah.
make and continue to nurture those relationships. And we've spoken 3 or 4 times since then on Zoom calls and just stayed in touch, man.
Yes,
And
sir.
I think that's just so powerful. But where I want to start is, who is Mark today? And then we'll break down how you got there.
That's a really great question, Justin. And I can say the same thing about going to events, by the way. I really had a great time connecting with you. And it's such an amazing feeling when from an event that you spoke at and you've gotten the time to connect with someone after the event multiple times. That's how you know people like you are solid and highly relational. And I really appreciate that, Justin. But who am I today? I am an entrepreneur by day, a full-time dad. I like to say that.
It
Obviously, I
is it
can't
is
run
a
around,
job, man.
run away. It is a job. I'm fathering a 4-year-old, and boy, that brings a lot of joy, but it also brings a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm a speaker. I run a digital marketing agency now, but back then I was not doing what I am doing right now. As a matter of fact, one of the most pivotal times of my life was when I was a teenager, where I was really into gang violence, drugs. I sold drugs. I was around it. I used it. And it was right until I had an encounter with Jesus where things began to change for me. I let go of the drugs. I let go of the environment that I was in, and I started pursuing Christ and my calling. So I would say this: if it wasn't for Christ, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I always have to share that because I remember what life felt like. It was very depleting. I felt very, I felt very defeated as well. Didn't know who I was, felt very lonely, even though I had a whole bunch of people in my life that were still friends to this day. I just didn't feel like I fit in those environments.
Mm.
And slowly but surely, I realized why. So today, I am, I am a product of where I came from, but I'm transformed from where I used to be.
Yeah, so I want to go back to that moment, right? Because you find yourself, because of environment, in these bad predicaments, making these poor choices,
Yeah.
selling drugs, using the drugs, all these things. And then you have a moment where something rocked your world that knocked you out of it. Because so many people feel stuck in that place, right? So not only, obviously, yes, you're going to say it's Christ, but what gave you the strength to continue down that path instead of ignoring the nod?
I'll say this. Dang, that's a great question, Justin. Instead of ignoring the nod, because I could have ignored the nod, man. I felt the nod. You know what's crazy? The tug that I've always felt, even in my young years, I've always felt like I should remove myself from that type of environment. But I was ignoring the nod. I
Mm,
was. And I think part of it was because I was chasing acceptance. And now that I know that now, I was chasing acceptance because I grew up rejected. I grew up being picked on and all those things, especially when you're short guy in the classroom. No, everybody's taller than you. But I was chasing acceptance, and what happened was I realized chasing that acceptance is not really fixing what's going on internally. Like, and what helped me was having a friend of mine. His name is Patrick, and I'll never forget him. He would really have some deep conversations with me around my life, around my faith. He would give me some books about success, principles around money, and I would just take his advice and try to follow it during that
mm,
time.
yeah.
So I would say what really helped was having the right people in my life at the time to kind of lead me and guide me in the right direction because he totally saw where I was heading. but he reeled me in and kept it real with me, man. So I'm forever grateful for a relationship. This is why if there's anything that I like to talk to people about is having the right people around you that could strengthen you, that could um, coach you, that can mentor you, that can guide you, that can help you level up. Because I used to hate that they used to say this that you are who you hang around, but it's actually true.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that, man.
No, and I'm so glad you said that, and I'm right on board with you. Like that's my keynote. Who are the five people you spend the most time with, and that's the book that I'm writing, and all these things, and these are the roles that people are playing in your life, and how important is it that you're very, very intentional. One thing I really like that you said is that you mentioned how I'm still friends with those people from my past life. That doesn't discount who you
Mm-hmm.
can still become. I think so many people think we need to get rid of all of that, right? Like I look at
Mm-hmm.
from a standpoint of when I got married 3.5 years ago, or three plus years ago, I had four groomsmen, and my shortest relationship was 20 years out of those four friendships. None of them are entrepreneurs. None of them are on this path, and there's still four of my best friends. But I'm intentional about my relationships, and so I want to ask you: how are you intentional about the time you
Woo!
spend with those people versus the time of the people that help you level up?
My brother, I commend you. I am very intentional with that, to be honest with you. However, I just went through something where a 16-year relationship just broke up. And now I'm having to rethink and restructure and reorient myself on how I even build relationships because I didn't realize that specific relationship, there were some things I was blind to that now that I'm out of it, I'm like, whoa, what am I doing? What was I doing? What was I thinking? And those are things that you learn along the way. None of us are perfect, but I'll tell you this: that doesn't mean that I should give up on relationships. So I still have other friends that are long term relationships like yourself. However, they are when I realize that when you're getting older and older and you're becoming an adult, you don't have the same time that you had before.
Yeah, yeah,
So I like to, be intentional about reaching out to people through text messages and then seeing ways that we can connect in person. I rather an in person conversation rather than a text message or a phone call. But phone calls are still good. They're still good. But I like the feel. I like being in somebody's proximity and their presence because there's something about being in somebody's proximity, the relationship, the dynamic, it just changes things. So, but I have to be real with you, Justin. There are things that I know, and I know it's coming from a place of hurt and also wisdom, where I'm like, I need to reorient how I do relationships
mm,
because I don't want what happened before to happen again.
yeah, yeah, and totally true. Like you and I, when we spoke about this months ago, I told you about a friendship of
Yeah,
mine, which was
we
8 years,
did.
and it got burnt to the ground, and it was what it was. But I'm very much somebody who, and I didn't realize like this was kind of like a superpower of mine, but it was brought out when I was being interviewed on the stage at my event last month. But like I'm really good at going, oh, this hurt, and I'm there in that moment, and then I go, okay, well, I still need to move
Yeah,
forward, right? So like, and then as you move forward,
yeah,
you kind of find the wisdom and the knowledge, and how can I plug this into here and there, and I will say that I haven't fully avoided partnerships since then, but I've been much more cautious and dug a little bit deeper and tried to figure out like what makes sense and what doesn't. And I love that we're having this real raw conversation because these are things that as you level up
man.
in life, it gets harder and harder to find out why people are in your circle. When you start to get success, like
Yes,
why are people friends
yes,
with me? You know what? You know why I love you, man? I literally was chasing you to have you on this podcast. People normally chase me to be on the podcast. I was like, dude, will you schedule this?
yes,
Schedule the dang interview. But it's one of those things where it's like, great, man. Let's see where this goes. And now that you've created success for yourself, right? Like when you look at it, you went from the streets to a very, very successful entrepreneur helping businesses all over. What have you
yes,
noticed
sir.
different of how people treat you?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I noticed a lot of things different. So there's definitely a difference between my and I hate this. This is on the record. Oh well, it is what it is. There is a difference between how my old friends, old relationships treat me versus my new friends. It's almost like the people in my past, some of them are proud, but a lot of them aren't loud about,
Mm,
the accomplishments and the success that I've gained over the years. The new people, or people I meet on stages that we speak at, or we're doing business partnerships and it's almost like they treat you like you're a freaking celebrity or something like that. And I don't even want to use that word. They treat you like you're the man. And I'm pretty sure, Justin, you've experienced what I'm talking about. And I'm learning that when you're at a certain place in life, um, you attract certain quality of people, certain types of people. And I'm starting to be okay with that. I've had to do some deep work personally to let go of the idea of people in my past will will appreciate where I'm going. Like I had to let go of that because, of course, you want even family members to be proud of you or to at least congratulate you or at least say something. Say something. Of course, you want that, but I realize that that's a that's something that I shouldn't be chasing after.
mm,
What I should be focused on is actually continuing to serve the people that I'm essentially called to serve. And if applause come, great. If it doesn't, I'm still great because I'm not
yeah.
here for the applause. I'm here for the impact. But that's a good question that you asked me, man. It made me reorient how I wanted to answer because I almost said some crazy stuff.
Just this
You ever
this is
heard
our
that haters are your elevators? You ever heard of
yeah,
that before? Haters are your
yeah.
elevators. You heard? Well, let's say this. You start realizing how much people are hating based on your success.
It's so true.
You
It's so
start
true.
realizing that, and that's sad. Actually, it's
Dude,
sad to me.
they say money amplifies everything, and it's not only your personality at the core, it's also how people behave and treat you, and it just amplifies everything around you. And there's a trend right now on social media because obviously I'm on an entrepreneur scroll like so many other entrepreneurs, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
when you post about your success online and it says on the screen like your family and friends, it's just people sitting there all quiet, and then it says strangers and there's like
Mm-hmm.
standing ovation in the crowd. One thing I used to say often in interviews and stuff that I would do probably 8 years ago, I started saying it and said it for a couple of years, was your friends will never support you publicly until the public supports you. And it's like this
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
I realized it with when Inc. magazine dropped, right? So when I was put on that Inc. magazine list, all of a
Come
sudden
on.
all these
That's
people
amazing,
started
bro.
sharing out my stuff and being like, "Oh, I've been listening to this since the beginning." And I was like, "Where you been when I needed you?" It's wild, dude. It's just
Exactly.
wild. And
It's
and
wild.
obviously talking about social media, I think is a good shift for us to get into what it is you are an expert in, which is, content creation and helping individuals be seen and heard. You have a huge YouTube channel with a ton of followers and people
Sir.
who really follow your content. How did you get into
Yes, sir.
content marketing?
COVID-19, baby. I'll always say quarantine was probably the best thing. Being quarantined started a lot of businesses for a lot of people, and I was one of them. What happened was I was so locked up inside this house, and I know I had a message that I wanted to give to the world. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna just try this whole online thing out. I remember studying this at a coffee shop, Aroma Joe's coffee shop specifically, and I was reading a book by Brene Brown, The Gift of Imperfection. And as I'm reading, there was this young man who I was mentoring at the time. He walks in, we begin to talk, and then he started talking to me about TikTok. And he told me, this is 2020. He told me, Mark, with all the things that you share with me, which is so valuable, I think you should take what you're sharing and put it on TikTok. Looked at this young man like, bro, I'm not going on TikTok, bro. Like, no, I already have a Facebook. I already have Instagram. I'm not starting another platform because I wasn't trying to do that, Justin, to be honest with you. But I listened, and I'm glad I listened because the first 4 months of me just being consistent with sharing my wisdom and my messages to people on TikTok, I grew to 100,000 subscribers in four
Wow.
months, bro. And and what happened was, as I was growing, I took all those clips and I just posted it on YouTube, not knowing what it's gonna do. I just started posting them everywhere, Instagram, and my influence started to grow, following started to grow, connections started to happen, more speaking engagements. And then all of my friends, business friends, people in my network just kept asking me, "Hey, bro, I see you growing. How are you doing what you're doing?" So I just started giving free game. I didn't know the world of coaching. I didn't know the world of consulting. This is 2020, man. I just was like, you want to know this is what you do, do this, and make sure you do that. And I'm making a long story short. I said, all these people keep reaching out to me, and I'm taking out all my time, and I'm and I got a baby on the way. Maybe I should start charging for it. And I did it for the first time. Guess what? How much I charged for the first time? I still I'm so mad that I. It's all right, but
I'm
guess
gonna
how
say
much I
a hundred
charged for
dollars,
my
a
very
hundred
first
dollars for an hour.
$100, $100, bro.
That's where I started, dude. Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm it's crazy to me because now I'm laughing at myself because I would never do something like that ever again. But that $100 turned into, consulting for certain organizations and nonprofits. It turned into $2,000 for like 2 sessions, and then slowly but surely, I learned the marketing agency world,
Mm.
and that's what opened my mind. Listening to guys from like Chris Doe from the future, and Sean Cannell from Think Media. I started exposing myself to these guys and just getting game. Myron Golden, who really changed the game for me. When I got connected with Myron, I first of all, I knew that I had the gift to sell because one of my first jobs was in the sales industry. I was selling gym memberships. Then I started selling Apple products with Apple. That's a whole nother story than Amazon. I'll talk to you about that one day because you didn't know about that. That was actually my very first entrepreneurial round, but we'll talk about that. And Myra was sharing with me like you got to get good at selling and solving people's problems. And I started to learn the power of packaging and selling and creating offers that will bring so much revenue to my life. And I just implemented everything he said, and that's what brought me to where I am now. Like I just closed a client uh, a couple of hours ago in the construction industry, which is very odd and different from my normal group of people that I like to work with. And I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. But but I can't believe it at the same time, like where I am now, bro, because I never would have seen myself doing what I'm doing now, Justin. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's funny. There's so many entrepreneurial stories of, hey, I did this. People started asking me how I did this. I gave the advice for free, and then said, hold up. Same thing happened to me. My podcast blew up. People were like, how are you doing this? I would tell
Yeah.
people how to do it for free, and then I charged $100 an hour for the first coaching client, and then and now it's like, forget, never will you ever get an hour of my time for $100. And that's not to be mean. It's just like when your value goes up, you don't spend the time
Yeah.
doing those things, but you have to start there. And Gary Vee wrote the book about it. Jab, 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 right hook. He talks about give value, give value, give
Ooh.
value, and then the right hook is okay. Now I'm gonna close you, and you did that and built a following in the process. Now you were just sharing your message and your
Yes.
wisdom. Tell me how important it is to you to share your message to inspire other people.
It is extremely important. It's something that I'm doubling down on. I literally spent some time with my online community 2 days ago, talking to them about, hey, we're switching gears. I know you see me as a guy who inspirational and very encouraging and inspiring you guys, but I want us to be a lot more practical. I want to challenge you to start doing the things that what God's calling you to do. Build that business, write that book. I want to challenge you there. But I feel like now they're able to trust me because I spent the last 6, 7 years really speaking into their life and walking through them with their life struggles, giving them advice and wisdom on how to deal with relationships, personal conflict, internal pain, insecurity. So I feel like as a human being, we humans, we all have things that we deal with on a personal level. And you might be on your high right now. I know right now I'm in my high right now. Every time I close the sale, I'm like, I feel great about that. But there's going to be a time where you confront something real, something that is painful, maybe something that hurts you, maybe a lawsuit. Something could happen. Who is going to help reorient you and bring you back to sanity and peace and wholeness? And this is why I feel my message is very critical, because I know the human experience. You cannot avoid pain. You cannot avoid hurt. You cannot avoid life struggles. And I think I am going to continue to do that. It's just going to look different. It's going to be packaged differently. And you
Yeah.
know what I'm finding? I'm finding I'm able to move inspirationally with almost like a new community, the entrepreneurial community. I don't know what's happening, but I'm finding myself talking with high level entrepreneurs who are working things out in their professional life, personal life, stuff that I can't share on here. Like I just heard that individual, they just lost their husband
Mm.
unexpectedly last week, and I'm having to walk them through that. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I feel like I must act, and it is crazy that I'm putting that I'm using that word must, but I feel like I must focus on continually being inspirational and encouraging to these people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny how many similarities your path and my path have taken since COVID. I look at it from a standpoint of the first 2 years of the podcast, I was lost, broken. I had a parent who I lost to an addiction. And so I talk about that a lot. I grew this audience where they just had parents who were addicts, right? Like it was like this interesting thing. So when you were talking only inspiration, you grew this audience of people who needed that inspiration, who needed that word, who needed that thing. But as you grow and evolve, your mind grows and evolves, and you begin to talk about other things. I start talking
That's
about
right.
business a lot more on the podcast. You start talking about implementation,
Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden, that audience makes that shift, and then you find that next niche, right? And so, you making
Yep.
the shift makes a total game changer in your business. But also, if you look at the next piece, like what's the next phase in what you're doing? Because I know as an entrepreneur, you're constantly growing, constantly looking at that next thing. You've mastered the game you're in now. What's next?
You know what's next? I want to build a movement. I'm going to build a movement. I'm actually in the preliminary phases of getting all of it solidified. So I'm talking about things around community development, um, community events for specifically for professional development, entrepreneurial development. I want to create space for people who live who come from where I came from, inner city, the ghetto, the hood, and giving them access to resources and tools such as AI and tech and all these type of things, because I feel like that's my way of giving back and putting people on and giving people a game. Now, you don't kind of you are already doing something similar to that. You just have a different niche. What I want to do is actually, and this is my first time sharing this on your podcast, so I'm gonna open it up.
Honored.
But what I
I'm
want to
honored.
do is actually create a space for people who are far from Christ to experience Christ, but it's not packaged in a church setting, and it's not packaged like it's done in the church.
Mm.
So it's something that I'm working on, but I'll tell you this: the goal is to bring gospel influence in every sector of society. I want to see every industry. So think family, arts, media, political, government, education, healthcare, every industry. I want to redeem it for kingdom influence. But I know it's gonna take a lot of work to collaborate with certain individuals and certain organizations. But that's something that I'm working on, and I'm super excited about that. I am so stirred up about it. That's actually one of the things that's taking up a lot of my time these days. But yeah, man, you got me sharing, getting a little bit too excited about that. But I'll leave
Well,
it
dude,
there.
and I love the vision and the understanding of like, hey, I know it's going to take a while. I know it's going to take a couple things
Yep.
to move this. And here's why I'm loving this conversation for people listening. So many people have a big vision, but their
Yeah.
timeline is very, very rarely real, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
realistic. They want it immediately, and if they don't get it, they give up. I look at it from a standpoint of, when I was in my mid to early mid 20s, I started a company doing live events, and it did okay at first and then completely died out. Fast forward 10 years later, I brought back live events after I was like, I'm never doing it again. But what did it take? It took those
Come
10
on.
years of experience, those 10 years of reps, those 10 years of whatever. And then the vision became more
Yeah.
clear. And I think that's why people need to understand like this is the long game. Like entrepreneurship is the long
Yes,
game. It's
sir.
not going to happen overnight. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
unless you can grow 100,000 followers in 4 months on TikTok, you know, which is incredible. But I
And
want
that
to ask,
still don't happen overnight.
it's still crazy though, right? And
That,
so when you
yeah.
look at that,
Yeah.
what would you say to somebody to get more practical? What would you say to somebody who knows they have a message that needs to be heard, but they sit down to record something and they question judgment, they question, I don't, they hit record and then they feel like they look dumb or they sound dumb or they whatever. How can they
Yeah.
push through that discomfort in order to post it? Because their message does need to be heard.
Man, I used to be just like that person. And one of the things that helped me get unstuck is I stopped focusing on myself. So I'll
Mm,
say to the person who is struggling with getting forward, moving forward with their content and getting their message out there, don't make it about you. Actually, stop worrying about you. Worry or focus on the person you are actually trying to impact. If it's somebody, if you got to imagine a customer avatar and speak to that person every single day, that single person, create content for that single person and don't worry about how you look because at the end of the day, it's not about you. And by the way, when people see you, they don't see you through your eyes. They see you through their eyes. So they might think what you think is ugly or cringy, they might think it's amazing. And as a matter of fact, I got proof of that because I've also got trolls. They call me James Harden online because of my
the
beard.
beard. Yep.
It gets me so hot. Almost every comment. Thank you, James Harden. Thank you. And they're trolling. But I also have videos where um videos that I don't like how I looked on the camera. And those are the videos that people like the most. Or I
Mm,
didn't like how I said something. And those are the ones that take off the most. So at the end of the day, I'm learning the video, the content, anything that we build, even live events that you're curating, Justin, it's built for the people that are in the room, not for us.
yeah. 100%. 100%, man. And if I think the win for people like you and I is, we get to hear that it changed a life, or we get to see something happen because we said a certain thing, or we put the right person in the room with them, or we did these little things. But
That's so good.
whenever you curate something, it's for that other person. Like, sure, there's elements of it that I like because like that's the way I do it, right? Like my summit, which my new event elevates a little different, but my summit has loud music and it's exciting and all these things. And I had a friend say to me, he's like,
Let's
dude,
go.
he's like, why is the music loud? I go, because I want it loud. It's about the energy, right? So like I'm not changing it
Yeah,
because one
yeah,
person
yeah.
said, and he's a great guy, by the way. I won't I
Right.
won't I won't call him out on the podcast, but I'll tell him I talked about him. It's one
Yeah,
of those things that like, there's certain aspects that you do and you go, that's why I attract people that are like me. So that piece is
that's
important as well.
right. That is absolutely correct. You're doing something really well when you attract people that are like you, actually. You want to attract people that basically has your DNA. And that's a deeper conversation that I would love to probably have on a second podcast
Yeah,
because
I
that's
would.
actually what you want to do when it comes to building influence anywhere, building influence online or in person. You want to attract people that resonate with your DNA, your message, your values, so that's why me and you connect because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of alignment within both of us we share some values together. I'm pretty sure it's probably language is probably different, but
Yeah.
we share the same values.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. But I want to ask you a question I ask every single person on this show. It's a two-part question. The first part is, what is your definition of success? And the second part is, what are three things you
Oh
do every
man.
single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Oh my goodness. You know I don't like that question. I do not like. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I do not like that question
It's fair.
because
Fair.
I know that success for me is it could be different for you and even for somebody that's listening to this podcast. But I'm gonna define it anyways because I think you put me on the hot seat, right? When I define success, I define it as impact. I define it as if somebody's life was transformed, then I'm successful. I do not define it as monetary because and I used to be that. I used to be like, success is when I hit my first $1 million or, I get my first $10,000. I haven't, and for some people that could be success, and I think that's a great place to. Those are great goals to have. However, I feel like money can always be taken away,
Yeah.
but the experience that you create for people, the experience that you add to people's life, the value that you add to people's lives, those are things that can't be taken away. So for me, success is have Mark made a mark in somebody's life. Have I marked somebody in a way that has totally transformed their world? And if I've done that, then I believe that I'm successful.
I love it.
And it doesn't have to be somebody of notoriety. It could be a random Smojo type of person. That's success to me, man. And I want to leave that legacy for my children's children to help them realize, yeah, I'm gonna leave you an inheritance, but I want you to I want your life to have some level of significance beyond the monetary gain.
Yeah.
That's my definition. And the three things that I do right now to ensure that is I'm always speaking with people. So I make sure personally that I speak to at least two or three people a day. And I know that sounds like for some people who are introverted, like, boy, what are you doing? You're talking to my wife and my children are enough. I feel you. But I'm relationally wired. I think God has wired me that way, right? And every time I'm speaking to somebody, I'm I always find myself getting them to talk about the deep things that's going on in their life. Like even earlier today, bro, I was simply coaching this young lady, beautiful young lady, who really thinks she doesn't think she's able to get a man. And I was able to help her rewire and rethink that that concept. Like, who told you that lie? Like,
Yeah.
who told you the lie of when you get married, then you're gonna thrive in life? That's a lie. You already thriving even if you're not married, right? And I find myself changing people's world by having simple conversations like that. So that's one. Number two, I'm reading things, reading books that that really align with my core values. Obviously, the Bible. That's my favorite book to read. But I also read books on influence and psychology and business because at the end of the day, I know that if I'm gonna be successful according to my uh my definition, I'm gonna need money. And I'm talking about the way that I want to do it. I want to leave this legacy, this grand legacy of changing millions of people's lives, man. It's gonna take money to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because I can't talk to 1 million. Well, I can. I can talk to 1 million people through a screen.
Yeah.
And the third thing I believe is by loving myself, bro.
Mm.
Loving myself. I don't believe I could properly love other people if I don't love myself. And I want to make sure that the love that exudes from myself is shown and felt through my interactions, through my experiences with other people.
I love it, dude. That's super powerful. And you know, you are who you say you are, right? Like, and I think that that's the beauty of that. And it's funny. I asked that question for so many reasons because I've realized, like, throughout 600 plus conversations that I've had, that obviously the definition of success is always different. As a matter of fact, I've interviewed people over the 10 years multiple times, and their definition has changed during those 10 years. But the three things they do every single
Wow.
day is usually the things that fill their cup. And those things, even though it's you pouring into others and connecting with others and helping with others, that's what fills your cup. That's what makes you feel good. And that's what successful
So
people do.
good. That's true.
They make sure that they can run on high energy, right? And so, and it's funny because they say that when you're in your 20s, especially for guys, when you're in your 20s, it's money. When you're in your 30s, it's relationship, love, whatever. And when you get into your 40s, it's legacy. Like, you begin to kind of look beyond, hey, what are the things for me here? What else can I give to the world, or
Wow.
the next generation? So yeah, of course, that
That's
that
so
definition will
good.
always evolve and change. I think mine's pretty much locked in. My definition of success is I get to do what I want with who I want whenever I want. And so
I
obviously,
love that.
so it's
I
it's
love
one of
that.
those things. Like, so that's how I live my life. Like, how can I make sure that I'm free to do what I want when I want, and how can I have the resources to do whatever I want? And it's super powerful, man. So I wrap up every single interview with the same question. But before we get there, how can people find you? How can they work with you? What's all the good stuff?
Man, they can find me on any social media platform at Mark Lebrun. I am not a relative of LeBron James, so please do not spell the LeBron like LeBron James. It's Lebrun. I had to put that out there. Always wanted to say that on the podcast. Finally
You
did it.
got locked it
There
in.
you
We've
go.
we've now
Uh,
mentioned two NBA players.
and
I
my
love it.
if you're looking for any help with your marketing, digital marketing, social media marketing, video marketing, you can reach out to my agency, digitalinfluencersco.com. Digitalinfluencersco.com.
Love it, dude. Like I said, I wrap up every single interview with the same question, and that is: in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Man, you ask great questions, bro.
Thank you.
My biggest moment of growth. I'm gonna have to, why you that's hard to answer. I'm gonna have to attribute that to my family, bro. Like it's evident that I'm growing as a husband and a father, and I see the growth. I see how my growth is growing my family. I got two girls. My wife is the girl, and my daughter is the girl. And I'm seeing how my presence is deeply affecting their life in a positive way. And I want to just continue to feel that growth. I know that if I'm well, they're going to be well. If I'm not well, they're not going to be well, man. So I'm learning to be a very present father. And I really mean that. Like, people don't know this. You're gonna be the person that know this. I think I told you, but I actually do homeschool
Yep.
in the morning, Monday through Friday, for the fam for with my daughter, and I feel like those are the best moments of my life. Now, is it great that I just closed a client today? That's amazing. But I got happy when my daughter learned how to do the letter S today. She's only 4 years old.
I love
I
it,
got
dude.
happy about that. So those are my best growing moments, man. Being present as a husband and a father for my family.
I love it, man. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your wisdom with my audience. You will be back because we got other things to dive into for sure. But dude,
Yes,
most
I
importantly, I
would love
appreciate your
that.
friendship, and I look forward to seeing where that goes and grows, man. I appreciate you.
Likewise, Justin. Thank you so much for having me, man.